I'm Safietou Russell from SDR Consulting, Inc., and we're here today on Business Basics Friday. The goal of this session is to provide some value to small business owners in the space of tax, accounting, and general business, and then have an open Q&A at the end. Welcome to Business Basics Friday. I'm Safietou Russell, founder and CEO of SDR Consulting, Inc. Business Basics Friday is a weekly session catered to providing valuable information to business owners. We have a variety of guest speakers to come in and help share information to educate you on the many areas of your business you may need to manage. This is strictly for education and information purposes only. No client relationships being established here, and we're not liable for any use of information provided today. As far as my background, I've been in the industry 21 years. I'm a CPA and enrolled agent and also have a master's in tax. And SDR Consulting, Inc. is a virtual firm based in New York, but we do service clients all over the US. And we mostly work with mental health practice owners, helping them reduce their concerns regarding tax and accounting. We also provide tax, accounting, and consulting services. So if you are here live, go ahead and share in the chat any comments or questions that you may have, and we will definitely go over them at the end. All right, and I want to go ahead and introduce our guest speaker for today. Tatiana Tsoir will be covering the topic of how you're different, creating a consistent and predictable inflow of clients. And so, Tatiana, the floor is yours.
Hey there. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's nice to meet you. My name is Tatiana Tsoir, and I'm many things, which I'll bore you with in a little bit for just a minute. But I would love to welcome you all to this session. I think it's going to be a great one. You will enjoy it. I'll challenge you a little bit, so get ready. So let's just get started. And let me share my screen. All right, let's see. It looks like I'm sharing, right? All right. And then I'm going to enter presentation mode. Actually, just a second. I think I did the wrong one. All right. Great. Terrific. So I'm the founder of the BOLD method, and today we're talking about creating consistent and predictable flow of leads, how to use no-cost strategies to increase your sales and profits at the same time. And by no-cost strategies, I mean that they don't require any advertising spend. So let's dive right in, and I'm going to monitor time over here. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm a published author. I'm a magazine contributor, nationally recognized business strategist. I'm also a CPA, MBA, United States Tax Court practitioner. I got that license to learn the rules of evidence that lawyers know so well, so that I can prepare my clients and support my clients throughout the year to be audit ready. I also have a couple of courses, a bookkeeping course, a fractional CFO training, and all of those great things. And I'm also, of course, a professionally trained speaker and a three times TEDx speaker as well. So enough about me. Let's talk about your business. So what I found, having worked with small businesses for 18 plus years, is that typically successful businesses who make it, who are extremely successful, who maybe get sold or whatever, exit in another way, focus on their attention on these 5 areas of their business. Foundations are things like standard operating procedures, creating different legal support for your business and things like that. More leads, that's everybody knows what that is, right? More conversions, more transactions per client, and more profits at the end, which includes this area includes specifically things like cutting costs, creating efficiencies, creating processes, things like that. Okay, now I know how this presentation works. So the idea is that every one of these things consists of these pieces of the pie, right? And if you take this one piece of getting more leads, which is what we're focusing on today, this digital marketing is what people typically think about. Do I advertise on Facebook? Do I advertise on Google? Do I advertise somewhere else? The problem with that approach is that when we look at digital marketing, it's not just advertising. Advertising is just a little tiny piece of the puzzle. I'm just going to move myself so that I can see it as just a tiny piece here on the right that includes, advertising on all of those platforms. And advertising doesn't require a significant budget. And some of my clients use advertising, some don't. But advertising, I see a problem in advertising, and I've personally experienced kind of the negative effects of advertising last year when I was launching a course. And now I know why this happened, but wasting money on advertising is usually what happens. And I'll talk about in a little bit later about why that happens. But when you focus on digital advertising and you focus on just advertising on those platforms, that's only one thing that you can do. What about all the other things? The copywriting, the behavioral analytics, the local outreach, the networks, the reputation building, the search engine optimization. And it's a buzzword. It has been a buzzword for years. Putting out content. Everybody is about content all the time, nonstop, content. What about all of those other things? What about email lists? What about mobile advertising? What about doing live streams? And so typically when you hire a marketing agency, right, they focus on advertising and maybe search engine optimization, maybe some brand building, and maybe some copywriting. But what about everything else that we see here? Well, okay, and now it doesn't switch. All right, let's see. I'm going to use this. All right. What's important when thinking of how do you create more income? Everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants more money, more income to keep for their life, doing whatever they want to do, maybe spend time with family, whatever floats your boat. How do you actually make that happen and create a consistent and predictable flow of leads into your business? Well, you have to enter the conversation in the buyer's mind. The conversation that's constantly taking place in every prospect's mind. And it usually evolves around two main issues, right? The problem they currently have and they don't want, and the solution they really want and don't have. And so all of the buying decisions always address those two problems, and all of the worries that we experience as humans revolve around those two problems. The disconnect happens when the provider of a service that could solve that problem doesn't speak the same language. And that's what we're really focusing on here today in this presentation. I'll give you an example. So I'm a CPA. Sophie's also a CPA, right? And so lost my train of thought for example, because I mispronounced Safie's name. Sorry about that. We as accountants think people want to get their taxes done, to get their bookkeeping done, to do it correctly, to stay out of jail. People definitely want to stay out of jail, but they don't think about, oh my God, I didn't do my bookkeeping. Oh my God, I didn't file my tax, or I missed one little tiny number on my taxes. They don't think about it. They don't think about it that way at all. And I'll give you an example in a few minutes, where you will see how it applies to other professionals in the industry, in different industries, and actually a very different industry from accounting, where that is so true. And I'll show an example of how to work around it, and then you can apply it to your business. So let's dive right in. Let me introduce you to something called a conversion equation. What's a conversion equation? It's how we convert somebody, a stranger, somewhere on the internet, somewhere in America, maybe not even in America, depending on who your audience are, into a lead and then a client. First element of the conversion equation, there are 4 elements total. First element is the interrupt. Interrupt is your headline on your website or a specific designated page, which we'll talk about in a second, that addresses the problem the way the prospect thinks about it, not the way you think about it, the way they think about it, what keeps them up at night. So your headline must state that problem that they have but don't want. The second element of the conversion equation is engage. And that's the subheadline that promises them a solution that they want, but don't yet have. The third element of the conversion equation is educate. Educate is the education around it, along the buyer's journey. Education around the product, education around the features, the advantages and disadvantages of ownership, whatever. And then finally, the fourth element is the unique offer. Offer so compelling that a prospect would be stupid to decline. It must be so compelling. So interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. And so let's take a look at an example of how this is applied in real life, how I apply it with clients. But first, let me show you why we do this. And this goes back to the advertising story that I've shared with you. I'm waiting for the slide to load so that you can see the full information. Should have. Yes. Okay, perfect. So there are studies that show that only 3 to 9% of buyers in the market, in your market, are ready to buy your product or service at any given point in time, which means when you spend $10,000 in advertising, 91 to 97% of that goes down the drain. Why? Because only 3 to 9% are at that final orange truck looking icon thinking, okay, who should I buy from? But what about all the other people? What happens to them? You just annoy them with your advertising. That's what happens to them. And so typically we have to build remember, educate component, the third component of the conversion equation. You have to build that around the buyer's journey. You have to take them from the point where maybe they don't even know that this service exists. And I'll give you an example of that. As a progressive CPA, we offer proactive tax reduction services, right? Where we work with you before the year is over, way before, like in the beginning of the current year, before this year is over. We work with you to proactively reduce your money on tax. Most small businesses are not even aware that this service exists. So if I start pitching it, they'll be like, I don't even know what that means. My CPA is doing the tax planning for me. And so awareness of the product is one of the first steps that you have to build your offer, your educate component around. Then, why should I buy? The disadvantages and advantages of buying. Maybe a little brochure, electronic or paper, whatever. You know, swimming pools, companies typically send a physical paper, right? So you can see, you can imagine, you can see your future pool and things like that. So focusing on what happens on the buyer's journey for your buyer is critical. And that's what we're doing here. So let's take a look at this website for a second. Where's the offer? I mean, this is a very typical professional services website. All the accountants, all the lawyers, all the financial professionals have a website, something to that nature. And of course, like wealth professionals have very strict compliance. Where's the offer? Where's the interrupt of the conversation in my mind? Where's the engage, the subheadline that promises me a solution? Retirement consultation? That's not engage. What about the educate? Well, there is education, but it's his education. It's not education of the buyer. There is an offer of what, a free retirement consultation or fill out a form. You know, probably a month ago, I spoke to this one woman who was offering a very unique legal document review service. And I went into her website and it looked something like this. And she had a really bright yellow button that said, get a quote. And I asked her, how many times a week do you get leads from this button. Do you know what she said? 0. I've gotten 0 since this button was incorporated in my website. So to prove my point, this works. Now, this is not to say that these websites should not exist. They should. But how many people actually pick up the phone and call that 800 number? The retirement consultation, the get free retirement consultation, that is so specific. If I'm looking for a retirement consultation, this is for me. But what are the chances of that actually happening? The filling out a form, people don't like filling out. I mean, I don't. Filling out forms and having a robocall call them right away as soon as they've submitted a form to schedule a call with somebody. I don't want that. So there's nothing on this website that really draws me in if I make this website the one that's being put into the advertising. These websites should exist, but they should never be used for anything other than your buildup of expertness to show them that you know what you're doing, that here's my experience if you want to look at it, because there are people who read every word on your website, and that's okay. That's why we have websites like that for people. But then what do we do if we have to advertise? We're then wasting 97% of our money, right? Remember, interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. A headline that interrupts conversation, a subheadline that promises them a solution, education around the buyer's journey, and a unique offer that they can't refuse. So let's take a look. This is also a professional chiropractic office, right? No offer, no interrupt, no engage, no educate. This doctor had a website like this. A video, oh, hey, greetings, patients, whatever, parents, remarkable parenting, et cetera, free consultation, call 555, whatever, specialties. Take a look at those specialties in the middle. Emotionally disturbed children, behavioral problems, teen pregnancy, peer pressure, bullying, self-esteem, et cetera. How many parents, if you're a parent, think about it. How many parents and if you're not, also think about it, call their children emotionally disturbed, or think, even call it in their own mind emotionally disturbed? This is completely disconnected from the problem, from the conversation that's going on in the prospect's mind. So let's take that one particular specialty, which is what we've done. But the doctor got so successful that he started selling this, I guess, system to other professionals because his practice got so big so quickly. Let's take a look at that emotionally disturbed children. Now, what I'm about to show you is not necessarily something I personally agree with, but remember, emotionally disturbed children, remember this website, this, bunch of buttons, a bunch of things, free consultation, the video, and let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, why is it? Okay, so notice this page. It's called a squeeze page. Disclaimer, as a parent, I don't necessarily agree with the verbiage here, but this is for the vividness of this example. Sick and tired of yelling and screaming children in your home? That's how parents with emotionally disturbed children think about the problem. That's the interrupt. Is it ballsy? Sure. But do I agree with it? No. But does it work? Yes. Now you can discover the secrets of controlling your child and instantly restoring peace and quiet in your home. That's the engage, promise of a solution that they want but don't yet have. Now, this last piece serves as a twofer, right? An offer and an educate. And I'll talk just briefly about educate. I have a few minutes left, which is great, timing is perfect. But this is where You give them an offer that they can't refuse. Get the secrets of gaining and maintaining control in your home in less than 60 seconds. Who wouldn't want that? If a parent is struggling with a child like that and want to restore peace and quiet, they will jump on it. After we've reworked the website, and we didn't change the website, the main website, right? We just created this to be the go-to page. I mean, the prior page, right? Then they get a thank you after they've opted in. Now you have their name and email, and then they get an introduction to John Smith, who talks about only emotionally disturbed children in the way the parents think about it. So typically what happens then is you have to have a nurture campaign, because 80% of all sales occur between the 5th or the 12th point of contact. And what do you do in that nurture? You do a drip. What that means is you build that specifically around the conversion equation. That means the buyer's journey. I lost my own train of thought. The buyer's journey. So first email, maybe you'll send them, oh, there's a solution for this, because maybe they're not aware. There's a technique or a couple of techniques that we use with the child, blah, 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 whatever. Learn all about it. You give them research. I mean, you don't give them medical research, obviously, but you give them facts. You give them information to educate them around this issue. Then maybe the next email is around the advantages and disadvantages. The third email is around, what are the vendors? What do you, when you're selecting somebody to do this for you, what should you watch out for? And so on and so forth. So essentially, and I'm going to stop sharing now, essentially, that's, now I have to get out of PowerPoint to be able to come back to Zoom. Essentially, that's what you have to do. That's the educate component that I remember I said it's 2 in 1. That's what you do for your business. And now we can stop for questions.
Thank you, Tatiana. I just want to recap a few key things you said. That was really helpful in kind of seeing the journey, the journey from the buyer's perspective versus us providing the service or product, because it's hard to change hats, right? When we are looking to buy something, we have to think about the things that we that are turn-offs, things that we don't like, that hard sales approach versus the problem that we're trying to solve. So if I'm looking for a new, dress, right? Then in my mind, I'm looking for a dress for this occasion. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. So I got a message about cocktail dresses, specifically, and I was like, not just dresses in general where I have to scroll through thousands, but this message happened to just say, oh, looking for a cocktail dress. So I was like, I wonder how they knew that. But, it's about that direct marketing to the needs of the person or the traits of the person. So when things are geared towards exactly what you're looking for, you definitely are more likely to buy. And so that makes sense in kind of applying that to really all areas, all service areas, whatever industry you're in. So the interrupt, being on social media, we see all the various posts and we see the ones that are catchy and the ones that we just scroll past. And so in if you're a business owner, if you're in mental health or whatever industry you're in, we have to think about the things that we scroll past and the things that we click on. What was the difference? And then try to apply that to what we are offering, right? Maybe you do coaching, so that was pretty interesting to kind of walk through that. So, the interrupt, engage, educate, offer, simple steps, but, when you don't know, you don't know. And so working with someone who's, experience in the industry, getting results, definitely makes a difference. The numbers you gave as far as statistics were very interesting, because when I started heavily marketing, I just knew all these people opting into my list. Okay, we're the clients. And now I get it. 3 to 9% are ready to buy, and the rest go through that nurture sequence.
Yeah.
And then the point of sale from the occurring between the 5th and 12th point of contact, right? So that means is it a one and done? Like, did you contact them one time and got rejection and then that was it? Or did you continue to nurture, and educate that person and, via email, via follow-ups, whatever your process is? Because I know even for me, there are times where I didn't move forward with something the first time. I usually don't. And sometimes it takes a couple of follow-ups and then I'm ready. So we have to keep that in mind and not get discouraged in that lead generation process, thinking that it's like overnight success, because most times it isn't. Right. And working with your clients, with different industries maybe that you've come across, Tatiana, can you share maybe some um, tips on people maybe because you kind of mentioned something in the medical field. So I work with a lot of mental health practice owners, and I'm not sure, from their perspective, how advertising works and things of that nature. And I've seen advertisements for bigger companies, but for the, smaller group practices, what kind of tips could you suggest for them?
I think the best tip is to understand the buyer's journey to apply the conversion equation. This was we just took one specialty and we took it apart and we created a page. Then we went through every specialty and we created that. And so that's how you create uniqueness around it. You don't just build it around one problem, you build it around several problems, but you have to focus on one at a time. Because what happens when we try to market to everybody, we sell to none, right? And so that's where focusing on your ideal person. Who's that person? What are they experiencing? And yesterday I was part of this, I'm also in New York, and I'm a part of the Accountants Club of America. And yesterday I was listening into somebody presenting, and actually, I thought, what could possibly a boring CPA teach me, right? And then I kind of liked what he said. He said that, when we stop learning, we stop growing. Also, he said that, when we he was talking to this, he told a story, a quick anecdotal style story. He said when he was working with a client, and he was, I don't know, in the area, and he visited the client, or a prospective client, I think it was. He asked, he was talking to him about some business stuff, and the client said to him, "You know what? Talk to me about my goals. Because I run this business not because I want to give you work. I run this business because I want our family to have a, good house, to be able to travel, to do all that. Talk to me about that."
Mm.
That's what we as accountants fail to do often.
Yes.
And so I found that to be actually very refreshing. So I think finding a way to talk to clients or prospects, or when you network, if you network, to talk to them and make it personal. That, I think, is the tip that I would give.
Thank you. Thank you. And even what you said about, breaking down the specialty. So if you are a social worker and you treat, work with different, clients, and maybe you focus on anxiety, depression, substance abuse, whatever it is. And so breaking apart each of those specialties and then creating, content surrounding that and the solutions and going through that model that you just mentioned, that makes a lot of sense. And I've seen ads related to that, related to ADHD, and kind of, highlighting the some of the issues that those suffering with that are dealing with, and then the solution, because it's not just about highlighting the problem, it's the solution, right? So I can resonate with that. And for us as CPAs, with the reducing the tax liability, same thing. I do have my main website. And most people don't realize, yes, you need a website, but you're not selling from your website. I didn't know that, right? I was like making all this stuff on my website, all these resources, amazing. And then turn around and had to create, a landing page, right? Or a separate page that just focuses on certain things. Okay, so tax write-offs, okay, S corporations. Let's create a page specific to this, specific to those problems. Have you opt in, get some information about that, and then go through that nurturing sequence. And then the organic and the paid work, well together as well. If you're you can't just do paid ads if you are doing that. And if you're doing organic only, then multiple strategies is going to be important to really make yourself known. Make yourself known.
I talked about the fact that these strategies are no cost, Typically, you know, to incorporate this conversion equation into a business, it takes me 4 to 6 weeks, you know, of weekly meetings with them, because it takes time to flush this out, to try things out. And typically then we would run like a low budget split test, like maybe 3, 4, 5 option split test, and make sure that it's statistically significant, to see if anything pulls up something, you know, and maybe have like a little PDF, like a checklist, a 1-pager ready to be emailed to these people who opt into your list. Because now you have a pool, even when you're doing split test, you have a pool of people that clicked on it.
Right.
And doesn't require, you know, a lot of budget. And then you can organically talk about this problem, and then somebody else in your office, in your health practice, talks about another problem on their social media, and posts that particular link. And that page, if you noticed, it didn't have any distractions. It had a link to the other website, but that's it. Because typically the websites that we all have, right? Typically, oh, here's me, here's what we do, here's all the resources. And the person is like, oh my God, like, where do I even go? Like, what do I even do here?
Yeah, where do I start? Right. Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes less is more, right?
Absolutely
Sometimes
right.
less is more. All right, perfect. So let me just pop in. I don't see any questions. Hold on. I do see a question here on Clubhouse. Hey, Audra. Yes, someone just co-signed speak their language. And yes, as accountants, this is something that it's typically not a strength of ours. We're about the numbers. We're about the tasks. And, you know, I find that me and Tatiana are not your typical CPAs, right? Which is good. But, you know, nonetheless, we still all have, you know, areas to grow in terms of speaking their language, relating to them, remembering that they're people, that they have families, you know, and vice versa, you know, so vice versa. But definitely getting to know each business owner, what their goals are, what they actually do, what's the significance of what they do. That whole holistic viewpoint of it is really vital. And it's interesting, Tatiana, if you could just share a little bit about your journey from, you know, traditional CPA to, you know, where you transition, where you've transitioned into now in terms of helping people grow their businesses. That would be great to kind of hear that journey.
I think I didn't obviously change. I just got more and more experience, right? And I learned a couple of things, and I learned how to really, I guess, what's the word, harvest what I do every day already into and kind of create something new with it. And in 2018, I think I had my lowest financial point. I had 2 kids, and both kids finally were out of, you know, I sent them to the youngest one into daycare, and then the oldest one into kindergarten. And so I wanted to be a mom that is there for them. I wanted to meet them at the bus. I wanted to have summers off with them, you know, more or less and stuff. And I've done that since 2012, since my firstborn was born, up until 2018. And in 2018, a client would text me or call me. I had a pretty big client base. I had about 100 clients, you know, mostly tax and some bookkeeping. So once a year kind of income and stuff like that. And so we were kind of at the lowest financial point, because I didn't want to work more, meaning I was getting clients and stuff, but I didn't want to go full time or anything like that, to work for somebody else. So that summer, you know, these clients, I was hanging on to each client, and I was like, you know, come here, you know, stay with me. And I remember the client would text and say, oh, you know, we need to discuss X, Y, and Z. Let's meet, you know, like, when can you meet? And I would look at my calendar, and my calendar was wide open, because I wasn't, you know, I was with kids during the day. And so that happened like probably several times from many clients. And I ended up with like every day of the week having like a call in the midday. And so I couldn't take the kids somewhere for a day trip. And so that summer, instead of having 7 weeks with the kids, I was like, I felt like I didn't reconnect with them as well as I've done before. And it was very important for me. So also that year in September, it was announced, QuickBooks, Intuit had this QuickBooks Firm of the Future contest. And so I was a runner-up. I was one of 3 US firms who won an award, and I got some money. My client got some money, whatever. And I was like, maybe I have something, maybe I'm not just meant to do it the way it's done in the industry. Maybe there's something else to it. And so that's when I signed up for proactive tax reduction training. It was expensive training. I couldn't afford it, but I charged it. I signed up for a business coaching so that I could organize my life, automate a lot of things, not waste time on and not get paid for it. And the rest is history.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes it's about making that shift, right? For the things that's important, because we can definitely just continue in the rat race, right? And whatever that is for you, if you are, running a practice and you're at capacity, you're burnt out, you're working 7 days a week, it's time for a change. It's time for a change. It may be time to do things differently. It may be time to expand, and you want to make sure you're doing that properly. But definitely, getting the leads in is one thing, but then now it's about running the business, expanding and scaling to the point where you can still maintain what's important to you,
Yeah.
and that's something that is a work in progress, for me as well, making some shifts as well in my business, regarding tax and accounting. And it's just great to kind of see other people in that journey and be able to kind of, from your experience, give them solutions that have worked for you and then allow them to apply it to them. So.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Tatiana. So thanks again for sharing. If you can go ahead and share, how people can get in contact you as far as, your service offering and expanding, bringing in leads, and what you have available for that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. You can always find me on Instagram. So feel free to DM. We can chat, just chat, or go to talktotatiana.com. It has pretty much everything I do, but it has in a very organized banner, so you'll see it when you go there. And let's connect.
Excellent. And what's your handle on Instagram?
Tatiana Tsoir.
Okay. Perfect. All right, great. So if you're listening in, hop on to my Facebook page to see the visual of this. Definitely to see Tatiana's spelling of her name as well. The last name is Tsoir. So if you're looking to find her, you can find her there. But I want to thank everyone for joining in for Business Basics Friday. I'm Safie Russell, founder and CEO of SDR Consulting, Inc. We help 6-figure mental health practice owners reduce their tax liability with my 3-step entity analysis. And we also provide tax and accounting services. So everyone have a great weekend. Make sure you do something for yourself this weekend, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.